What's up? I'm gonna wait for the regulars to come in. I have really bad I have bad heartburn. Things are a little fucking wonky lately, guys. It's Mercury retrograde. Things are going a bit crazy out here. I just got my $200 back for the power station, and now I don't know what to do. So I'm just gonna save it. What's up? Heather, if this is you, I haven't heard from you in a while. I don't think you're blocked. I looked up Heather Vera Mesa. I found your channel with, it's blue and pink, I think. And I checked it, and you're not hidden. So I just want to make sure everything's good down there. Hope your holidays went well. I'm waiting for people to come in, check in. I want to see how everybody's doing. I haven't checked in with people in a while. The last time I did like a community post, there was a few people in there that said they were suicidal. So I want to make sure they're alive. I gotta see how things are going. Let's do a poll. I have really bad heartburn. I'm waiting. I might get a pizza with my food stamps. I don't know yet. How we feeling? Good? Bad? There you go. Feeling good and bad. I'll talk about some mental health stuff that helps me. We can do updates. I'm only going to go for an hour. I want to check in with people. Earlier today, that last live was crazy. I need to get better at, when I'm in public, I don't want to just walk around putting the camera in people's faces, even if I sort of believe that it's a Truman Show alien simulation. I still want to be polite for some reason. So I didn't want to just like shove the camera in people's faces, but a lot of shit happened this morning. Since buying the .177 ammo for my break barrel air rifle, crows have not come within 100. Like, I haven't seen a single crow in 2 days. And when I went to buy the ammo, there were crows going left to right, left to right, left to right. Everywhere I went. It was like the most crows I'd seen getting in my way. Saying, don't do it, don't do it. And then when I got right to the final hump, because the Tractor Supply is on a big hill. So right when I was about to get up that big hill, I saw a seagull, which we're about 50 miles from any big lake where the seagulls are. So for a seagull to be there flying around me left to right over and over to say, don't do it. And I still did it. And the crows have not shown up since. The only bird was a bird I don't really recognize. I'm not sure what it was. It looked like a really fat peregrine falcon, which is kind of funny because I've been getting fat and that's my favorite bird. It always makes me feel happy when I see them. When I see a heron, I'm always in amazement. When I see a peregrine falcon, I feel like a friend is close to home. One time I want a wildlife refuge. I have many big dreams and I don't stop dreaming and planning pretty much all my day. So I'm always thinking about what I want from life. And this is the best time to be alive, and it's kind of the worst time to be alive for different aspects of what you want to get out of life. Like, I'm young enough that I got to experience what it was like for people that grew up before the internet and before technology boomed. So I'm getting to live through these guys, and I'm getting to see the good and the bad of the people that I meet that have like properties out here. They might have like not even 5 acres, like 4 acres, and half of it's a hillside, and they kind of dug with a shovel every couple years, more and more out, and they got cows, and it's cold, so they have cows they're having trouble taking care of, but they want livestock, and they live like out in the hills. I really like, I'm sure I might not like all the people that are living out there in those hills, but there's people out there. Like when I show you these mountains, there are people that live up there. I don't know what the fuck they do for work, but there are people up there. And I always saw it as like the Eyrie from Game of Thrones. I always saw Vermont as the Eyrie, with like the mountain clans. When you get too far up in Vermont, coincidentally, if you started off like Brattleboro is King's Landing or Dublin in Ireland, if you relayed the same map over Vermont, and then you go to what's up, Loca? How we feeling? I haven't talked to chat at all in months, so I wanted to give an hour to see where people are at. So I'm just checking in on everybody, talking about more cool stuff with my life, I guess, while I wait for people to pop in. We're talking to chat today, guys. I want to see who's here. Don't get too scared that I'm it's gotten to the point that I start calling out. I've been watching a lot of gang stalking videos. That's great. Happy to hear, Loca. I don't think we've ever spoken. How long have you been watching? How did you find me? Let me know if you can still hear the audio like this. Yeah, so if you put a map of Westeros and you put a map of Ireland over Vermont, they line up pretty perfectly. And I'm really happy about that, because it gives me a sense of purpose in my life when I look at this. I love how my life turned out, but I hate other people and what they've done to me. And I'm also sort of low-key ashamed of my lack of progress, because I know what I'm capable of. But that's okay, because I'm still moving. Yes, we have a while back. Been watching all your videos. I appreciate that, Loca. I wish I could be better. I hope that the point of my videos is that they're very simple, and that's what I love about it. They're probably the most simple videos you could make. And the meaning embedded in those videos is so great, beautiful, and complex that it almost is essential to have a simple, lazy life. In contrast to that, then the 1133 Sagittarius Aquarius just adds to that. So I'm excited. I went and bought I bought 5 notebooks because there was a mouse in my house that it got into my tote and it ate up a lot of my shit. So I had to kick him out. But I believe it's divine timing. I played music for the first time today. I haven't gotten into music really, other than that past couple songs, but I haven't really been listening to beats in a while. So I did that today, because when the snow's here, the plows don't come, which means that the police can't come at me. They'd have to go on foot, and if they came on foot here, it would be kind of too obvious what they're doing. And they're not even supposed to be a part of my life, man. It's just like these guys come out of the woodworks, these characters. I want to see how we're feeling in a minute. Loca, if you're still here, where, I can't remember where you said you're coming to me from. I know there's a lot of people from New Zealand. I don't have access to the geographical stuff. I don't really know who, I have no idea who's watching. It's a tough part about doing this, is that you never know who's watching, and I pretty much publicize my location. And I live in Vermont is one giant small town. So if you think about it, the theme of this year has been that the whole town's talking and that they gang up on me. So I can only imagine that as my story is getting grander, it now involves the governor of Vermont and like 6 different towns. I can only assume that they're all talking. And I had asked God to be famous because I thought that if I became famous, it would fix all of my past relationships that ostracized me because of they couldn't see who I am. And I didn't meet their expectations because I was quiet. They expected me to perform, to be their friend. And then the more I'm learning about narcissism, the more I realize a lot of my past relationships were sort of feeding off of me. And then now that we have people in the chat, you're originally from California, you're in Ohio. That's dope. I've been thinking about going to California, but it's dangerous. And I heard the people are crazy. And I went to college in Ohio. I was in Chillicothe for a couple months. And I used to go to Bullwinkle's in Columbus a lot. Holy fuck. Where was I at? Oh, the small towns are talking. Oh yeah. So I've been part of the channel. I've been trying to figure out why the fuck the crows keep showing up all day, every day. What about me? It seems like the closer I get to feeling a sense of peace and control over my life, they show up and they scream at me until I feel like I'm gone again, like I disintegrate back into a disassociative state. It's like, how come I can't have any sense of identity without there being some type of backlash? And I see that same backlash not only in the crows, but with cunts, cops, creeps, crackheads, chaos, and corruption. I seem to be targeted by people. And it depends completely on something that should be internal and not able to be recognized based on the current science. They shouldn't be able to tell that I feel like I'm crafting an ego and I'm building a mental structure with boundaries and I'm coming back to a place of peace so that I can start to house a song in my heart. The world shouldn't know that that's happening inside, yet the world seems to respond like that pretty much every single time for a decade now, at least. So I've been looking up tons and tons of videos and I can't find anything on it. If you look up crows, you get the same carbon copy cloned videos of a Google search that gave a bunch of people that were trying to build their channels that just kind of farmed like spiritual meaning of crow, spiritual meaning of dandelion, spiritual meaning of tobacco, spiritual meaning of snow. And then they made like tons of channels just made that carbon copy video of whatever they found on Google. But today, for the first time, right before this video, a tarot reader that I don't watch made one that my mind was like, click it. Then I checked the numbers and the numbers were 1111, or it was 3311. So I clicked on it. And then the first thing she said, other than you're Sagittarius and you're alone, and I see you coming into a lot of blessings, she said that I see you constantly tormented by crows. So I'm called to tell you that those crows, and you see a lot of red cars, and maybe I'll link the video. Eventually, I have a whole playlist of tarot, of all the videos that have been addressed to me directly, and I have a playlist of every time they mention me, just as proof if anybody were to ever be like, you're full of shit. I can be like, you cannot dispute this. We're in a network of mycelium and possibly an artificial intelligence that's just sending messages to us. And those people, their whole life has been devoted to figuring that out and then going down that road to be able to receive messages. And they say that they get lines of ancestors that come in nervous and so excited to speak to us and they relay messages. But we also have movies like, and I'm not going to divert for an hour like I usually do. We had that movie Talk to Me about kids that channel demons, and the demon comes in and they pretend to be your ancestors to guide you to make horrible decisions that keep you locked in purgatory and hell, and then you become one of those things where you have to use others to escape. So I always keep everything with a grain of salt. That's the reason that I'm not in a psych ward, is because I look at things based off facts and I have a rational mind. I just have been through so many spiritual experiences that many people pay tens of thousands of dollars for, that I've been blessed with. And I have a mind that doesn't give up until I feel like justice is served. And I will ruminate, and I will just sit there and I will think about it for sometimes weeks. If something happens to me that I don't understand, I will sit there and get to the bottom of it. And then as living outside degrades your mind, I have a whole new set of problems that I add on to it. And I think that sport, whatever that is, a spiritual sport, I think that is very entertaining and enlightening. Because apparently, okay, no, I won't deviate. The Talk to Me, the ancestors, the tarot reader said that the crows and the red cars that I keep seeing, and I point out in every video. By the way, my name's Casey. I'm just checking in on everybody, making sure everybody's okay. Heather is back. That's good. I'm glad you guys are doing well. Just making sure people are okay. Haven't talked to you guys in a while. The tarot reader said the red stuff and the crows are representative of the amount of anger that's being drawn towards you because of your ability to continue persevering towards your dreams and goals, and the progress you make is offensive to people who are too afraid to restructure themselves and in faith. But basically, it's just like raising their vibration and holding themselves to a higher standard and kind of letting go of the world that they've grounded or rooted themselves into. So when they see me, I emit it's like nail, they don't realize it, but subconsciously, it's nail scratching on a chalkboard. Just myself, who I am. So she said that the crows and the red cars I'm seeing every day is the only way, because I'm protected in my inner. Even though I'm not, I feel like I'm under constant attack. But I'm sure it could be a lot worse. That's the only way that the amount of hate that's being generated about me is able to represent itself. Possibly due to my good karma. So they can't come at me. So the way that it's getting represented in my life is that I have crows that are following me around and the red cars that are always driving left to right in my way. Which makes a lot more sense, that these people are putting out they're spending a lot of manifestation energy, and it's going up into the system, and the super chat GBT is like, okay, how do I get this stuff trickled back into the experience in a way that meets all the standards and requirements and that embodies the fairness and equality of this experience to allow for free will? Because we can't just jump at him. He's not a bad dude. We have to let it build up. And I'm sure there are forces at play that drive you in different directions. I'm not saying I'm not bipolar, but I am saying that it's been 7 weeks since October 19th, and I was in St. Johnsbury, and when I got out, I had seemingly a better head on my shoulders because what I experienced in the prison was horrible. So that really grounded me because I had to sit there and fight through it. And then I turned my phone on and got lost in social media and YouTube, which the overstimulation and the distraction from reality that the phone puts you in takes away a lot of your state of mind and your ability to focus. It really does mess with you. I really think that phones shouldn't be around, and I think if we just all turned our phones off, the world would evolve pretty rapidly, because we would have the focus necessary to stay and grow and build ourselves. And we would, at least me, I feel like I zoom out of my body and I lose control. So I'm working on that. I changed it to I have a creative outlet. That's how I changed it. I put more emphasis on the YouTube channel, when originally this was going to be like a back diary. This was going to be like, I'm living my life, and then every now and then when I feel like a big rush to create something, I'll go. But this year, I just kept it incorporated in my life, and I grew with it, and I pushed with it. Because I had a dream here last year. I was here for 2 weeks last year, and I had a dream that I learned how to fly. And it wasn't like something taught me how to fly. It was that I flew, and I was able to learn how to fly by watching myself fly. So it's like something I already always knew, and it's just when I wake up, I'm not allowed to know that. So I activated and I learned how to fly. Like a lot of people in my past have told me they have dreams that I, as a child, teach them how to fly. And that could be representative. You know, that girl might be watching, because she said a young version of myself taught her how to fly, and that was, I used to have that profile picture of the younger version of myself. So she might be learning through these videos. Because I keep getting, there's a Pisces that comes through every reading that I have. And I don't know if it's her, but it might be Zerka. John Zerka watches. Imagine the piece of shit he is, that he's a multi-millionaire, and he's entertained by me, and he copies me. I can see how his speech changed because I was active in his Discord groups. I know when he started. And I can tell who's tuned into me, different content creators, because as I'm cycling through all the different energy and bandwidth, my personality will change like I'm an Aquarius moon. So suddenly what is usually a song that I'm generating, suddenly it comes through and my whole voice and tone changes in my experience, even though it's hard to pick up. There's like subtle nuances and the vocabulary changes, and I see the silhouette of them. So I can tell when tarot readers are doing readings on me, and I can usually tell when they're watching. And those are people that have thousands and thousands of subscribers. Just a part of my life over and over, I know I might be saying too much, but a part of my life is that I consistently, even though I'm alone, the people that come into my life end up being managers, people in government, people that go on to be famous very quickly, people that go on to influence many, many people. And it's never like, you never know who it's going to be. Like even the homeless guy that gave me my car last year is now the most infamous homeless man in Vermont, because he's a schizophrenic that needs services and help, and Vermont is not giving him help. So now he's publicized because he's committing the most crimes out of anybody, because he's just walking in, it's cold, he's walking into places and just taking wine. He's a really short redhead named Patrick, and he's just walking in and taking wine from places. All the businesses know who he is. They haven't trespassed. He doesn't care. He's just going in and taking the wine and taking whatever he needs from the stores. He doesn't care if the cops show up and put him in jail. So a short redhead Viking named Patrick that I thought was like, oh, he's the enemy. A short Viking named Patrick. And if you look at Irish, the Vikings and St. Patrick were the worst to us other than the English. So Patrick gave me the car that helped me through everything, and now Patrick is going at the people that I don't like, and he's causing a lot of trouble. The thing that made me like the Vikings, because I originally was like, not racist, but like I hated the Vikings, and I used to talk so much shit about them, and like, this is a psyop, Vikings suck. They made up the blonde hair and blue eyes. Really, they were short redheads. They were the goblins of folklore, and Irish people were the giants of folklore. And they only overwhelmed the Irish because they were peaceful monks, and they would come at nighttime, and they would overwhelm them in numbers because there was a lot more Vikings than there were Irish on the island. So they would just bum rush them in raids. And that's the only reason they won. And then society wanted men to be aggressive and value that type of culture, specifically white people, because they were transitioning them out of slavery where they would beat everybody and they would beat everyone all day. If the Irish people were promoted because the Irish were the slaves at the time. They were the crackers. Irish people were enslaved along with the indigenous and the Jamaicans and the Incas and the Mayans. Everyone that was involved with the Spanish Inquisition were enslaved by the English and the French, along with, and Ireland was Project Zero, or the Patient Zero. Ireland was the practice for 1,000 years, and then they took that and then they spread that across the world. So they promoted the other cultures that weren't the Irish to keep them out of power, which is why all over Vermont there's a lot of Irish bigging up, because a lot of Irish people came here because they weren't able to be hired in New York, because Irish need not apply. They could only get jobs like road workers, the prohibition illegally in the projects, and then police. So the Vikings were made out to be these giants with beautiful hair and eyes that were aligned with Hitler's values, coincidentally. And that was promoted to us. But when in reality, Vikings were pale, red hair, and 4 foot tall. They were goblins. They were called goblins. And Irish people were called giants. And they were peaceful monks. Okay, let me get back to the point. I'm losing it. Fuck. Viking. Oh yeah, I was so mad about the Vikings, but then as I meet all these homeless people, and I was abused by a system, and I was abused by a culture, and I spent so long ruminating about how much I don't like the culture and what's wrong with it, I now really appreciate what I feel are reincarnated Vikings that come at me. Obviously, like it's probably written in stone, that or written in space-time, that our genetics don't mix, and there's probably a lot of ancestral stuff in our DNA that's mad at each other. I had a guy on mushrooms that I'd never met before show up because he said I was an Irish tree that his ancestors told him needed to be cut down before I rose to power. And his name was Cat, and he was a Leo, born on the 5th, which is the traveler sign. He spent his whole life traveling around the world before settling in Burlington. He's a Leo. He's at the Central Park in the center of Burlington in a yurt, and he has homeless people all around him in a circle, in tents, and he trains them how to fight. So he's pumping out all this stuff, and he said his Viking ancestry told him to, and he pounced on me and choked me out in my tent. Then he tried to push me off a cliff, and he spit in my face. I'm recognizing the way that I was treated, what he didn't like about me that set him off was the way that people have been setting me off this year, and I want to spit in their face. So I get it, and I don't hate him as much, and I really actually like the Vikings and that level, that system of their consciousness. I worked for a guy that was really into Vikings, and I can see their behavior come out of them, the way they speak to each other, and that I'm not even sure they recognize what they're doing, but I can see it. So like I had a guy that had a Viking name, and I was mad because I didn't like he was telling me what to do. I was washing U-Haul trucks, and I only worked a couple shifts. And I was like, I don't like the way he talks to me. I don't like anything about this guy. It was now that I'm looking back, they're all people that have the similar names that follow me everywhere, and they were motifs of my story, and I'm pretty sure that they were not even real, and this is an AI simulation. Now that I think about it, because the overbearing guy had the same name as my overbearing friend, and they wore the same pendant on the necklace, and they had the same genealogy, and then the person that helped me was the culture that I like, and he had a name that was the same, and then there was a guy named Bryant that was defending me against the Viking guy, but at least I got to see the Viking guy go. There was another Viking guy that showed up, and they looked like the Vikings. They looked like how they should look, like traditional guys in normal people clothes. And that guy started going off on the manager, yelling like a Viking, and they were yelling at each other, and I got to see how it was like I stepped back in time. So it was really cool that I lived in a world where the police were defunded and the homeless population skyrocketed, and I was homeless, living outside with only a machete, and I had like a black and gold Timbs and a jacket, and a crown, and I had a bat in my backpack, and I had the Game of Thrones cloak over me, and I was literally riding around on a stolen bike, helping make a difference by talking to leaders of community action programs, and then going to war against people that were trying to disturb me, which was like the English rich kids and the crackhead Vikings, and I was trying to help protect kids. Story over. The hate that I'm receiving is probably the crows. I finally bought ammo. The second I bought ammo, the crows have not come back. It was like they had a sixth sense for months that I had the weapon, but I did not have the ammo. And they were tormenting me, and I didn't buy any ammo. As soon as I bought the ammo for the .177 break barrel air rifle, they have left me alone. Because I'm sure there's like a little blip floating over my spirit that they can recognize with empathy. It says, like, if you come at me now, I will go to my tent, grab my gun, follow you, and kill you. So that's where we're at. Hope you're still doing fine, man. What's up, Derek? I'm telling stories. I'm right. I'm just making progress slowly. Trying to enjoy the most of the moment while we have it. And then try not to lose sight of myself while also learning from my experience. And it's hard, man. I got beef. I got ops now. I got real ops that shot at me, bro. I got real ops here. I'm staying here. Because I talked to that girl on the Important Conversations live stream, and she commended me for staying. And she said that she was traumatized by the same person that traumatized me. And she said she was running from that. So I'm staying. And then working slowly with other people to see where this leads. I've applied. The only jobs available are FedEx. I've applied to FedEx for 2 years now. I think they just have me in a pile of homeless. Because I was honest with them 2 years ago. I have a perfect driving record. I have experienced door dashing for years. FedEx will not hire me. And they need workers. I tried all the places around here. The next place is 5 or 6 miles north. There's a small town that might have a gas station I might be able to work at. But that would mean I'd lose my food stamps, and that would mean I'd be around a lot of people that have treated me like that's a bee's nest. That's a small town that has already told me I'm not welcome. And it's further away. Like here, there's a greater chance that I will make it if I go too far out there. And the day that I was planning on going out there, I talked to my lawyer, and he casually brought up a story that he read on the day that I was going to go about a kid who went north, went too far north, and he wasn't prepared. And then he starved to death, trapped, because the river locked him in. He went into a big piece of land. He was hiding in a bus, I think, or an abandoned car or something. I think it was an abandoned bus. And then the water came in, and then he got trapped. And he couldn't make it out without freezing to death. And he wasn't prepared, and he starved. And he told me that. I hadn't mentioned to him that I was planning on leaving town and going north. And he wanted to bring that story up to me. So I figured, and then I came back, and then I got a tarot reading that said, "You're in the right place, stay." So that's why I haven't left yet, or else I would have probably taken a bus to a more violent place that there's a higher opportunity I could get a job as like a pizza delivery driver with a company car. or something. Just to eliminate any people that are like, you lazy fuck, what the fuck are you doing with your life, man? Look, you owned a house in Chillicothe. That's called synchronicity, I think. I like Chillicothe. I like Moe's. I went to the recording workshop, and I'm a certified audio engineer. That was my first real spiritual experience, other than one time I discovered how to have faith for the first time. I have this long Google Doc from before the car accident of my philosophy in life, about everything that I had learned, and I thought about my perspective when I was in high school and just leaving high school, about how to live life fully and correctly, about what I learned from being an autistic 13-year-old fat guy deep in the Vermont mountains alone, to living a life that made a lot of other people jealous. So I had a philosophy about how to live life, because I love thinking. So I had a list about, it would be a docket, or it would be not I don't know what a doc is. A docket's like a court thing. I was going to, before Patreon existed, before we had mentorship courses taking off, before we had really anything, like YouTube was popping off with Minecraft videos still, before COVID, like three years before COVID. And I was like, eventually I'm going to have a YouTube channel and it's going to take off, and there's going to be so many people that I'm going to have to separate them. And if I were to ever raise an army, I guess, without like raising an army, but like if I had a bunch of people working together, there would be like rules for how to be a part of the inner circle. So I had this whole dossier or docket or manifesto about how to live a good life. And then my first real spiritual experience, other than when I did acid the first time, was I broke out of that to be fully present in the moment with faith, just on the off chance that maybe it is God's design and maybe God does have a plan for me. And then immediately there was a guy in a broken down car, and I was like, I'm going to help him. And I walked up and tried to be as helpful and friendly as possible. Like just keeping in good spirits. And then I felt this rush of good emotions when I helped him. That was a huge moment for me. But after that, my first real spiritual experience was in Chillicothe. I think they gave me mushrooms and didn't tell me. So I was driving 80 miles an hour up to Columbus to party. And I started, I was driving fine. I was freestyling with my friends. And who happens to be the nephew of a YouTuber that I grew up watching that really helped me in 2013. And I guess whatever I said made him quit the next day. And then I quit. I can't fully remember what I saw, but it made both of us leave the next day, and we never came back. But I remember one is that I knew they were aliens. I knew it was spirit. I don't have a word to describe what they are. I guess I would say higher dimensional entities. And they were communicating with me through my third eye. Like they took the structure of my mind, of everything that I'd experienced in life, and then they deconstructed it so that I could reach a greater paradigm from my frontal lobe. And then I learned unfathomable amounts of things that left me not afraid, but just not willing to go finish school. And we both, without talking to each other, we both left at the same time. I went home, and then I came back 2 weeks later and took the test and got certified as an audio engineer. But the whole vibe was completely different. But looking back, the people have the same names and the same vibes that follow me. So I have no idea if what I'm seeing in my outside isn't just like Roy from Rick and Morty. Or it's just an imagination from God. that he's imagining us. So that happened in Chillicothe. It's an important place in my life. I probably will at some point go back there. There's a guy named Paul Pollard. If you know Paul Pollard, he owns like an RV place. I was trying to get a hold of him this year. Because I don't know if it's what I still want, but before this journey, when I was in Vivek's cabin, before this 2024 really took off, my dream was to have businesses all across Vermont in New England that were fully self-sustainable and could be ran without me, so that I could live my life traveling the world. And then I would know that this beautiful place had a movement going that was in control and making progress against the culture that traumatized everyone I know and love, and that are so proud to do it. I don't know. I don't know if you know, there's a donut shop on one of these main roads that all the college kids go to. It's not like a Dunkin'. It's on a corner, and there's like maybe an alleyway. I think there's a big government building on the other side. And there's a homeless guy there named Curtis that he goes there every day. At least he did in 2018. I'd like to see that guy again. And then the rest of the people that I met on the way were in college, so I don't think they're around anymore. It was like I went to Columbus, and no matter where I went or what I did, I only ran into the same 4 people. It was like the other people were NPCs. I had no reason to speak to them. There's a pizza place there I tried to work at, and I went down and talked to the guy. And I was supposed to work the next day, and then I didn't. I went home because I was there to meet a famous YouTuber, and he wanted to meet with me, and then he bailed to go on a date. Like I sent him a long thing, and he was like, this is epic, this is inspirational. I definitely want to meet you. You're doing things that nobody else is doing. Like I went across the country to meet a neuroscientist to teach me things that I'd have to go to college for 8 years to learn. And she gave me a book of everything that I need to know. And then I came back to give it to a guy who runs a dating group for 30,000 people, that he has these Discord calls with 1,000 people sometimes. And I had information that nowhere else in the world had publicly talked about. And I was going to be the driving force of it. And I was going to let that guy, be the forefront for that and allow him to be the leader that he wants to be. And then instead he chose girls, and then his channel slowly died to where he was getting 20,000 views. Now he gets 500. And then I tried again the next year, and I went down to Miami, and he called me an angel. And then I had a sleep paralysis while I was awake, where I froze and I felt all these demonic forces. And then he ran at me and told me, he just stomped in like a big warrior because he's tall. And he said, kill yourself. Where usually he talks like this with like a higher pitch kind of, like the guys in Ohio, like Jake and Logan Paul. That type. So I came home. I don't know if I'd go back. I can't imagine, other than like Arizona, I can't really imagine me living anywhere that doesn't have a lot of mountains. So I guess my life is just waiting for artificial intelligence to take off. Because at some point, all the money that I would spend on like a nice RV for $100,000 that runs on diesel, in like 5 years, I could probably get an RV that runs completely on solar for the same amount of money. Bike Campus does Olentangy. Okay, hold up. Bike Campus does Olentangy. I don't know what Olentangy is. I don't remember the name of the donut shop. And then it's like the pizza place everybody goes to. It's right on campus. I was gonna work there, and I slept outside there. And then I bailed because the guy bailed. Columbus wasn't bad. It just didn't feel right. The best part about Columbus was taking the Greyhound bus out of Columbus and talking to all the guys from Cleveland. I like the guys from Cleveland. I grew up with African immigrants, like multi-generational African immigrants. So I never really had one-on-one conversations with anyone that lived in a city. Like I was mainly like growing up when I was in programs, the only staff members I talked to were African immigrants. And I had an African foster home that spent like pretty much most of their life in Africa working for the Red Cross. So I saw the city culture on YouTube, and I didn't understand it at all. I didn't get it. But back then, I was coming from the top down, and then going through the cities, and then now through my life with the pain I've endured, I recognize the value in starting from the bottom and coming up. If that makes sense to anybody. It's a street. I wouldn't know the street name. I'll find it after this and I'll type it in the comments later. I remember that the wind was heavy. I was trying to do pickup artistry. I was trying to incorporate game into my life. So I walked up to a bunch of girls to be like, I can do an approach before I meet this guy that's a pickup artist, dating coach, self-help guy. And the first person I met, I felt like I resonated with her more than everybody. Her name was Shelly or Shelby. And we went and got pizza. We hung out for a little bit. She's very spiritual. She talked to me about life. I was gonna move in. Like back then, I was a do the most, get everything done. By the time I landed in Ohio, that second time, the first time was in 2018. The second time was in 2020. In 2020, I got there, and within that day, I had 4 different places lined up, and I checked out 4 different places about people's couches I could stay on. I already had gotten numbers and had dates lined up. I was going to live there, and I was going to win, and I was going to outshine the guy that ignored me. And then I decided, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing. But that was the first time a girl ever did Reiki on me, where all she did was like channel energy, and then she touched my shoulder. She drove me in her nice car. She was from New Jersey. She had rich parents. We hung out outside. Her and all her friends were in a dorm. It's like a house, but they live in the top floor of the house. And we were on the porch, and for some reason the wind just picked up, because I was still doing my practice of raising out of reality and constantly uncovering the universe to find a better paradigm to live inside, and just incorporating more knowledge and growing in spirit. So I was doing that, and then eventually she mentioned, do you think the wind's telling us something? And then the wind crashed into the door, and it slammed on the door and was like slamming against the window. And then I asked it to stop in my head, and it stopped, the same way that I ask for lightning and get it, or I ask for birds and they show up. Or I ask for a bike and it shows up. But for some reason, I can't ask people to stop hurting me, man. But I was having a panic attack the next day, because when you build like this, eventually you break. So I broke. And then I didn't know what to do, because when you're constantly trying to uncover the truth of reality, it's a lot of throwing it away and starting over. And then when you throw it away, you feel all the traumas that you have of being vulnerable are right there, because you surrendered. So we pulled into a park, and we were just gonna sit at the park. I was like breathing heavy, trying to figure things out. My eyes were bulging. Where originally I was the confident Casey that shows up, I ended with being the crazy Casey that doesn't know what's going on. And all she did was put her hand on my shoulder, and I felt all of a sudden like my entire world changed. Like I felt like I was transported into a new world, and I had a whole new heart, and I had peace. So whatever she did, like bam, I'm suddenly there. And then I looked up and realized we parked at the 444. And then the part of my mind that's like, I know it's synchronicity simulation because YouTube was showing me. It like snapped into place. And then I changed. And then I was at peace for the first time in a long time because I had just gone across the country through gang violence and cities for the first time. And I had to walk through like 90, 100 degree stuff with 150 pound, no, just it was like a 75 to 100 pound backpack full of books that I had all my money in the books so that in case I got robbed, there was less of a chance that they would go through the books and find the cash that was in there. But there was like an old woman that two like 15-year-old kids that were part of a Mexican gang. There was an old woman in a wheelchair that they stabbed and pushed out of the wheelchair. And I helped her onto the wheelchair, and she didn't want to call the police. She just rolled back into her house. So I'm sure it's so normal that she either stitched herself up and called herself, or maybe she was afraid of being a snitch because maybe those are her like second nephews or something. But I saw that a lot of people took advantage of me financially and betrayed my trust and shit. So it all came crashing in, and then she touched me with the Reiki healing, and then I snapped back into reality. And it was the first time that I ever looked up, and that whole experience where I trudged through across the country in 2020, which was right pretty much after the brain injury, and COVID happened. I was not anywhere close to where I am now. For the first time, like my eyes were able to look up, and I recognized how big the skyscrapers were, and I never even noticed because my brain is trained to a screen. So I saw the skyscrapers in Columbus for the first time. And it was really cool. And then I got on a bus, and then I hooked up with a girl on the bus, and I hung out with real guys from Cleveland that had grown up in Cleveland their whole life, and they all wore jerseys and had been to jail a couple times, and they were coming back and forth on a Greyhound. So there were people that I never got to hang out with, and I got along with them really well. I wasn't pretending. I was a lot more focused, so I was able to make jokes and be funny, and I was in the moment. I hooked up with a girl on the bus after they got off the bus. So I gamed a girl in front of them. I got to show off my skills. Whether they were real or not, that was a great moment for me. That's pretty much all the Ohio stuff that I have. Other than like, I bought pizza for a homeless man. I sprinted in the rain a mile to get it to him in time. He had taken the bus already, so nobody's ever nice to him. They treat him like shit. And I went out and spent my money, and I didn't really have. I wanted to buy him a pizza because I was still on this wave of just like put as much positivity into the world as possible. Love bomb the world with supreme generosity. So he saw me holding a pizza and sprinting as fast as I can, holding a pizza across town or the city. And then I didn't, but he still got to see me from the bus, and then I got a pizza. And I got to see a bunch of kids in college that were chubby. They were incels, and they were talking about like they couldn't take, the house was a mess. They were on like shitty furniture, and that was all they had in this dorm, and they're going to college. They had dishes that were, the entire kitchen was covered in dishes and trash, There were flies. Everywhere had stains on it. And they were trying to talk to girls on Instagram, DMing random girls in college. And then they look over at me, and I had just been through a lot of other shit. And I'm just laying there on the couch. And I looked over and said, I'm trying to develop a system to save people that are lost. And then I want to implement that system with content creators across the world so that we all can get into a practice that allows us to solve generational issues and fix the world before it ends in a way that allows us to enjoy it in the present moment and not lose ourselves in delusion, in rebellion against things that we make up, so that we can have a practical standpoint to start from, and we all can have a general consensus of where everything is, and we all can advocate for what we're doing by like Twitter polls where they put what they're doing and then everybody gets involved and then they talk it through before they do it. And the government works with us and not against us, because I still believe that the government was a bunch of good people. I was like, dude, the sex traffickers are bad people. There are just bad people in the world. Now I understand the majority of people are bad, that pretend to be good. And that when they find good people, they systematically torture them to the point that I can't even speak without my trauma forcing me to like touch my face like that. It feels like my face is being microwaved. How do you feel about that? You think that'd be an entertaining TV show or a movie or a book? But then when I go down to write, and then they slowly lower my frequency of my subconscious mind until I can no longer tune into my authentic self to best represent myself by writing the most beautiful thing that I can come up with. Instead, I have to like fight through and try to make it work, and I'm never happy with the outcome because it's been saturated by what is the hate, supposedly the hateful energies of all the people jealous of me. And I know that that's... So in this cycling of my life, this Groundhog Day, I get to the point where I realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't be sharing my story with anybody, and maybe it's causing more harm than good, and it's putting me at risk of copycats and people that are energy vampires and making insecure people active because I activate the wrong people at the wrong times. I don't know, would you consider me schizophrenic? My mom hears me talk like this and she's convinced that I'm not smart. She's convinced that I am delusional, and she's convinced that I'm schizophrenic and need help. And I just don't see it. Especially because of all the other testimonies from people like Joe Rogan, people like Donald Trump, all the people that are supposedly the people that we should be looking up to, that are in positions of power and influence over us. They're all on the same wavelength I seem to have been on. I know, I'm kind of a pussy, I'm not gonna lie. I'll go up and talk to the girl and have fun and lead the interaction. I will go to war. I will fight people twice my size. I will go across the country to save people I don't know. I will devote my entire life to finding a cure for a sickness that I had to suffer through, trying to help the world free from suffering. But if I open my third eye and I believe this is a Truman Show and there's things around me, if I fully acknowledge the fact that I see aliens on sometimes a daily basis, that are in complete response to my thoughts, that aren't like when I look at schizophrenic people, because schizophrenics are now in the technological revolution. There's tons of schizophrenics that you can find that they live stream themselves hallucinating. And I go through and I can see the pattern, and I go through and I look at other videos about people that study the past, like Carl Jung and all these different people that founded modern psychology, that you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a degree to prove that you know this information. So I go and listen to some of these information of what these people wrote, and it's all aligned with my beliefs and experiences. They all believe in God. They all believe in higher dimensional entities. They all understand occult knowledge, and they had to hide things from Freemasons. And they all did their best to make the world a better place. Some of them didn't have access to groupthink as much as they believed, and they deluded themselves a lot. I don't believe in Freudian psychology. I don't believe in Oedipus. I don't think we have a sexual relationship with our parents at all. I think he promoted that because back in the day, we only had our parents, and we didn't have technology. So I think that's an outdated thing that's still being taught, that modern humans look for their mother in their partner, or their father in their partner, and they become attracted to those traits because that's what provided them and gave them positive emotions as a child, which ingrained them to be receptive to that energy, and that's what they look for. I think that we have more, I think that was in a world where we had less awareness and conscious choice of our insides, our inner world. I think now in the age of Aquarius, when we're moving in, we have more spiritual control of ourselves. So we're able to detach like the Aquarius and rationalize our experiences. And because of this wave of content, we're now, our senses have been overloaded to a point where our attention span is so quick to turn to things that we experience things on a much greater level, so we can fully, we're not looking for our parents. And whether I'm ahead of the game and that the generations will get to this point when they eventually realize that like the way things are going isn't right, and that the way that they think that they're living isn't cool. But I'm pretty sure every generation thinks that way about the kids. Eventually we'll be able to just sit back like I do and just appreciate everything for how it is, and then we slowly learn about our preference. And I'm not finding that my preference aligns to my family at all. And I'm not really seeing that in others either. Like the kids I grew up with, they're not looking for their mom or their dad. But maybe I'm an enigma where I'm just looking for information, and I just take as much as I can and find the common denominator between everything. And then I just restructure how I like it. And I embody I can't describe what it's like for me on the inside. But I love it, and I love myself. But I don't go, it gets to a point where I feel like I lose myself, where I kind of dissolve into like a disassociative place. And now I'm getting better at just snapping back into it and continuing to charge forward. But in the past, I would detach, and then I go back and look at my videos, and I fall in love with myself. Even if I don't like at the time, I'm gonna go back to this, and I'm not really gonna like how I came across. I'm gonna take in more of life, and I'm gonna be like, there was so much I could have said. There's so much better things I could have said. I could have taken us all on a better journey than just talking like this. I could have done a whatever, and I don't like how I began. But then later, I'll come back and see it, and there's just like I glow. There's something about me that almost heals me. And I think that that whatever that healing is what I had to learn to heal myself. So that's just is me. I became what I needed, I guess. So that's why I don't feel like this content's a waste. This is what people did around a fire for thousands of years. I was probably, in a past life, I was probably a druid. I'm seeing Brian Boru. I'm seeing a pharaoh in Egypt. I'm seeing an eagle, like a large eagle, and a polar bear, and some type of older like half bear, before the bears got smaller and became the raccoons, because raccoons were big, giant bears that slowly got smaller and smaller and smaller until they became raccoons. They're not like squirrels. They're very small bears. So I'm seeing like an ancestor of one of those. And I'm seeing a spy, some type of spy in a suit. A Roman gladiator, not a Roman gladiator, but Yeah, I'm seeing a Roman. I'm seeing a Roman gladiator. I didn't want to say I was a Roman gladiator because I'm sure there wasn't a lot of them. And then it feels like I'm kind of. I don't mean I'm not jerking my ego off and like being like I'm all this. Like when I talk about 33 Life Path, Oldest Soul, I'm talking about I sit there and think about this for. It's like I have this arrogance that is not grounded in narcissism, and it's grounded from achievement. And because of what I've suffered, I have this humility that I'm never showing off. It's never to be like I'm never stunning on people with the intention of making them feel bad or feel inferior. And I think they hate that. I'm not like the people that come at me, so I have trouble figuring out why people treat me the way that they do. But I wish you could have met my dad. And I hope my dad's okay. I wish you could look through my eyes and see my childhood and see what I saw in others, because I don't think they're able to see what I saw in others. I wish everyone could see how I saw them. Because it seems like I live in a world that's much greater than other people. I had a dream last night. I was the last giant and I had to survive off eating Siberian tigers and biting the heads off of Vikings. And as I laid down cold and alone and dying, closing my eyes for the very last time, the universe opened and hugged me. Aliens came down and taught me to rise. I feel like I'm still somewhere out there, one of those weird dots we see in the sky. You and I are like the stars in the sky. Chicken burritos with garlic, chili pepper, cumin, and thyme, or a lonely night in fireflies. I stay outside. I could never be like these interior guys. I don't have time for inferior guys. I can't wait for the day they wake up and realize it was always me the whole time. I can't wait for the day they wake up and realize they were trying to emulate me the whole time. I am somewhere far, far away. You'll all smile and laugh when I'm gone. That's the Irish goodbye. That's on my album Sundance. And that has Park and Ride, Supernova, Circles, Fireflies, Home, Part 1, Safe Place. And it has songs that I have the beat that felt like it came down from the heavens. I have one of those songs that I've yet to make. And I haven't fully written out yet. And I know I have more on that album. And then I have Stampede, Storm, Savior, Saudade, or See You Around. And then I'm working on another one that might be Sudicere, which is Latin. And I'm not going to tell you what it means. And then I have I think I want to call it Swords. And then I have a lot around those albums that aren't just the albums. And all I really ask God is that find a way to make everybody's dreams come true. Like every time that I see a dandelion, I wish that everybody gets what they want in the most perfect way possible. And then sometimes I break down and I'm like, just at least let me make my songs before I go. Let me make all my songs perfectly and have them here. And then that's really all I ask for. Most of the day I'm cursing out God and then thanking him. I say, fuck you, thank you. But remember, a couple weeks, for like 3 times this year, I ran into real fear entities that the protection went away and I was met with what's there. And then I had to focus back on God. I had to get my belief back, whether he's real or not, or he's a tyrant God and it's a made up lie. It's an entity that we're worshiping that calls itself God, or if it's really the Great Spirit and the infinite, which is probably the case. I have a feeling it's benevolent, even if I'm not fully connected to Spirit right now, because I haven't been fasting. I'm hoping my life is being live streamed to aliens across the universe. That's what gets me through this, is that I'm a live streamer for something I can't comprehend yet. And I mostly, up until this year, everything I did was for others. For 10 years, I woke up every day, and from when I woke up to when I went to bed, I was just trying to get myself to the best position possible to do the most for others, for as many people as possible. This year was the real kicker, where I was literally forced and kicked and beaten. It took how many months of me getting beaten to make me not want to help the world and to focus on myself. In order for me to be selfish, it took years of the world abusing me unfairly. And I'm still fighting. I'm still crawling through with the intention. I don't have a word for what I'm seeing. I don't have a way to describe it other than I can make it in a song. And that feels like me. This energy that I'm talking about that doesn't have a word to describe what I am, I can only make in songs. I guess if you want to donate to Cash App to get me headphones to play the music in my head, but I'm not, don't worry about it. It's just what my brain told me to say. I know everyone scrolled away. I don't know how to do it. I told myself I'd never panhandle. I said, instead of panhandling, I'm going to give people the means to help themselves, and hopefully I'll get a trickle down out of gratitude. That's how I justify it. Like I would never go out and panhandle. My car would break down, and then I would have to sit in a gas station, and I would have to humbly ask for their change. And a Navy SEAL the most I got, a Navy SEAL filled up my tank once. Everyone else called the police pretty much or told me to fuck off. There were a couple nice women that helped. A couple guys jump-started my car, but the guys that jump-started my car flat out told me, I'm just doing it for karma. I know I'm going to get good karma for doing it. And then one guy came up and said, God literally told me, the Irish God of the day woke me up this morning and told me to go 40 miles to meet you and jumpstart you. And that happened right after I hung out with a moose and it watched me take a shit in the woods. I took a shit, looked, and there was a giant moose, and it walked away. And then I walked back, and there was a giant Irishman that said the God of the day, Dagda, told him to come here to see me today. So that could be an FBI agent. that could be CIA. I would have no idea. That could have been a guy in a silicone mask. I don't know. He could be watching my phone every day and knows that I was about me. They could have been grooming me since a child. They could have satanic covens of children that have been trained since birth to be satanic. that they gave STDs to, and their whole job for their whole life will be to be attractive and track down guys that they want to give STDs to. I don't have STDs, but I had a feeling that that's how sex trafficking would work. If you have a mark and you're trying to whittle a woman down to be involved in sex trafficking, you would probably watch her phone and watch her for months. You'd probably be trained on psychology and seduction, court her, give her an STD, and then leave, and then bank on your money and go on to the next mark. And your job is to just travel around, fuck women, and give them an STD, so that now their gene pool and their mind has degraded, their self-image has been destroyed, their self-esteem's been gone, and now they don't know what to do with their life. So that makes it easier for the next guy to come in, and the next guy's going to come in and treat her better than the last guy did, and then he's going to beat her and do all this horrible stuff, and then they'll come back with a different guy in a year or two, and then that guy, once she's really down and they got her on coke and all this shit, she hates herself even though she's beautiful. Now she's in, and they got her, and they'd been auctioning her off through her phone screen for years on the dark web. There are 2,000. Why is there 2,000 CIA agents in Vermont? Vermont is not even 300 square miles. And I know so many good parents that lost their kids and they'll never get them back. They were unfairly taken by DCF for no reason. And the girls are beautiful. And I know tons of youth shelters that get in trouble for trying to get the girls away. And then the shelters will not take in guys like me. Because I'm a threat. I thought it was a threat to their masculinity. And now I'm not sure what they saw in me as a threat. But it's never good people that have a problem with me. The good people are just as traumatized as I am. So we have a hard time we can empathize, but we don't have the communication between us doesn't work out well. It's the actions that we take to help each other. And I have a list of all those people, and when I tell God, I only want money because I want to rain it down on everybody that helped me. It felt good at the time to be like, I'm going to drive a nice car and drive through the people that drive it around the people that treated me like shit. But in the end, I just want it because of what I've been through. I have a dream car. I don't even want a car now because I don't want any more interactions with the police, and they feel like they own the highways. So I had a nice Dodge Magnum, and I saw how they treat me. I had the Dodge Magnum a week. After a week, I had knife marks across my entire car, and they smashed my side mirror. It's just the more money I have, the more things I can do. I don't care about designer shoes or anything. I just care about making things. That's my plea. I'm just here to check out how people are feeling, and I'm just waiting for people to comment. Mental illness is still real, but the system of consciousness has a lot of, I guess, nuances, little things that they didn't tell us about, like parasites and diet and a threshold of suffering that's necessary to achieve a perspective on life that sort of dissolves a lot of mental illness. Like, you know what I'm saying? Boundary. Bam. Chat. There are guys that people would say are mentally sound and very respected members of the community, and those guys seem to fly off the handle the minute that I walk by. They target me and follow me around. They threaten me. They get violent. They get aggressive. And those people are looked up to, like business owners that pride themselves on their principles. And it's just the principles that they made up and all this stuff. It seems like an escape from this compassionate, patient presence. So I don't trust the mental health system, and I know that anything that the Freemasons made, all these systems in place, was not made for our best interests. Like the Brattleboro Retreat and these mental health institutions, they're not... It seems like having a place to vent your inner world to, and having an outlet of somebody that's supposed to have a rational mind, that's there to kind of pick you apart in a good way and help you learn about yourself, is valuable. But saying that kind of it's weaponized in a way where people that might need that period of isolation to come to a unique perspective and have a different set of beliefs than the norm, where they could be channeling that like into art and creating something that inspires. Like all the great innovators of our time are all crazy. It seems like the system wants to divert all that energy that could be used for these positive changes and influences in a cyclical nature to kind of keep you roped around in humility that might allow you to function in society and build positive relationships and gain a better foundation. But in my case, at least, I didn't need to talk about what was going on with me. I needed just someone to drop $1,000. But I think if I had a therapist, I wouldn't have acted so impulsively and spent the money that I did get trying to escape from my traumas. But the relationship that you have with others in a mycelial network where the people aren't on the same level, I feel like that can be detrimental. And I do think that they weaponize mental health institutions, and they do try to gaslight you into a diagnosis to inhibit your identity from being free associative. Like those same people that will diagnose you schizophrenic most likely resonated at first with, I think it's Socrates, that said, reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears. So if you get all these weighted down diagnoses that now inhibit you from living a life because now it's in the way, that might not be the case. In most cases where people try to write me off as schizophrenic, it's just I'm an overthinker that's indulging in a belief with an experimental mind to see how that affects my surroundings. And when I went and believed, I've got a strong head. I've got a thick skull when it comes to taking in other people's opinions until I was traumatized. Like I always knew there was something more than what psychologists were telling me. I don't know. We have these red sprites in the sky that look like they have this weird triangular head and a bunch of like what looks to be a nervous system coming down from them, and they're glowing and they're in the sky and they just float there. Look up red sprites. And then look up deep sea ocean footage of weird squids in the Marianas Trench. And they look exactly the same. The squids look exactly the same as these sprites in the sky. I have dreams about blue aliens. Bashar talks about the Lemurians that come from Mu, that became Atlanteans, and they had a bluish hue to their skin. I have dreams about gray aliens with elongated heads. Then we find out that there's a race of Asasani people that are the future of humans that transcended out of time, and now they're able to come through time to help us on a journey, and they are alien to the collective consciousness. So it's like humans are like an AI, and that's like a separate AI. And there's like, is it Ultron, and then there's Vision, the Antichrist, and Jesus. And I had this foundational understanding of quantum mechanics to fix my brain injury. That's how I learned about will and about light and about subatomic particles and the foundation of reality that allows you to live in cohesion with the inner and outer world, that lets you escape from the belief that you're in a body, so that you can encapsulate a higher state of a higher energetic state. And I get followed by people with the same names and a lot of other stuff. There's my dump. I don't think all schizos are schizo. I think that they're hiding the occult from us. I think that the spiritual people that start to make a change die. I think that my experiences are shared by a lot of people, and those people go missing. I recognize what happened to me when I was taken into a mental health facility, and then I felt like I was destroyed when I was a star. And I think that I've come back to that, or come closer to that, or a different version of that. But there was something about me that I had that I felt I lost, and then it expresses itself in different ways. But I can recognize that happens to a lot of people that were originally leaders, like people that may, like in like a Foster eBay, who was he's just a genius like me, that studied a lot of books, learned a lot of knowledge, was teaching things in a very condensed and positive way, like I was, a very easy to digest way that allowed people to help themselves during COVID with spirituality. and he was my age, and then I saw his first visit to an institution, and I saw what happened to me happen to him. So I don't believe in modern psychology, but I also believe that not everybody has this capability of thought or this care to uncover and build from it to educate themselves. So really, mental illness is just how far you're willing to go and how much restraint you can have in yourself to not make bad decisions and to get to uncover the truth and to grow through your mental illness with maintaining a sound mind. Because any schizophrenic is still capable of doing everything like everybody else. It's just how far are they willing to take it. And at the other end of it, the world is still your oyster, even if you have it. And there's a good, like, as more and more are coming out, that difference that might be a disability might be a gift in other aspects of the universe. Because modern science and technology supposedly has only been here for 100 years. And I can tell you with certainty, there's a pyramid 50 miles south of me right now. And every time I go to that mountain, I have these extreme, vivid dreams. I have these amazing experiences. I love that place. And there's a rainbow that's a perfect circle of a rainbow that's just like a sphere of rainbow. And it floats above the mountain sometimes. And now that we have all these videos on TikTok of people uncovering what these pyramids covered in mud look like, there's one, like if it was daytime, I could probably show you. I'd have to ride my bike like 2 miles to be able to get over this hill to see the next mountain. But it's pretty obvious that's what it is, especially because all the other mountains look different. Mountains to me look like roots that, like what used to be giant trees and mushrooms that got cut down. Like Devil's Tower. If you look up Devil's Tower, that looks like a petrified giant mushroom. If you go to I think they call them mycelium palaces. Like that's what all the old architecture was, is just a mycelium palace. But I don't think you should take mushrooms. I took mushrooms and now I'm pretty sure I'm a skinwalker. I'm pretty sure I'm half skinwalker at this point. That video of the guy going, "Help me, help me, help me," in the field, I've experienced that on mushrooms, where nature got in and they hacked me. And if I didn't have this delusional determination I'm talking about to uncover and figure shit out, there's a good chance that might have taken me for a long time, like it has to a lot of my friends. And I only took one tiny little bit of psilocybin. Somebody gave me like a tiny stem and I took it and then I immediately started vibrating. And then I was talking to the entirety of nature. And the birds came out to talk to me. And I recorded that video. WIN and then a bunch of numbers, because that's what it catalogs it as in on your computer. So I was recording on my computer, and then when you finish the recording, it says WIN and all the numbers, and that's just how it's registered in your computer. So that's like, it was supposed to be a found footage video. I like that idea that it's a found footage video. But I channel some type of it, like I'd watch it. It's pretty cool. I was on drugs. If you want to see what Casey's like on drugs, it's WIN and then a bunch of numbers. I think it's in my favorites, my favorites playlist. I was on acid and mushrooms during that. It's getting cold, fam. I said I'd be here for an hour. I'm probably at an hour and a half. Let's see how people are feeling. No word for regulars. Yeah, our body. No, they're not machines. They're organisms that are different things working in tandem with each other. Your organs are alive. Like the meat on your skin, it's all alive. When schizophrenics are like, there's bugs on my skin. There's bugs in my skin. It's probably a higher dimensional being telling him he has parasites he needs to cleanse. But our bodies are condensed light. We're stardust. So it is a I wouldn't say a machine, I'd say a vehicle of light. Like you're in the commander seat of a spaceship. That I say you should grow into. And then it takes a lot to not go insane. It takes a lot of throwing everything away and starting over practically. Like I hate spiritual narcissists. That they're only in the spirit. And they're still having sex and doing drugs and all that, but there's like a know-it-all sense because they're holding in all that high vibrational light. And I don't think that allows for humility. I don't even think vessel is the right word for it. It's an extension of yourself. It is you. Like imagine if you, I don't know, were you guys here the other day that in the Exalted video where I started teaching how to escape to the fifth dimension, and then a spirit in a body ran at me immediately. So somebody that was walking down the street turned around and charged into the building. It was a kid. A 17-year-old kid that was walking fine suddenly got inspired to sprint straight into the building and sprint up the stairs and then sprint at me. And then the camera got him and he felt the camera and then he froze and then he reoriented. And then they sat around me cackling like crazy people until I left. And then they followed me out. What's up, PR? I'm all right. I just went off about a lot of cool stuff. I think Joe Rogan would shit his pants if he saw this if he listened to what I just said. I address mental health. I talk about my life, my beautiful life stories. I did a verse from one of my songs. Talking about my life. It's cold. Is it 10 o'clock yet? It's 7 o'clock. If I want to ride my bike a mile and a half, there might be someone that might be willing to let me pay food stamps for frozen pizza, and they might cook it in their oven. So I might do that. I bought a power station, and then the person canceled, so I got refunded my money. So I'm assuming that's a message to save my money. I'm trying to get a guitar. Just taking opportunities as they come and trying to make the most of it. The town is still not treating me very well, but it's okay. This is just where I come in the fall time. I didn't mean to stay here for the winter. There are plenty of other Vermont towns. I got trapped here because I had traumatic experiences that regressed me, and I had to sit there and figure it out so that I didn't lose sight of myself. It feels horrible. It sucks being an empath. It sucks being me, man. But it's okay. 7 people are good. Whoever's bad, I'm basically I think I do pretty well. Like I used to go back, I used to make my therapist question themselves, and I used to help my therapist. Most of my therapy interactions, it was like chess for me, where I would uncover their issues and I would highlight their problems, and I would cause them to have a better perspective. And they couldn't really get at me because there was nothing to really get at. I'm a 33 life path. Born on the 11th, man. Everything that they were like, you don't go to school. And then I would just go off. And then they'd be like, I don't think I would go to school either. I think you should just keep going. And then he's like, I am fat. Shit. You got me. Maybe I don't have full control over my mind because I've settled into a meaningless life based on lack, because I don't have an abundance mindset. Maybe I should start taking chances, and then I'll be better suited to actually empathize and call out other people. And maybe I was trained to just invalidate people who might have a different perspective on life, and maybe that shouldn't be suppressed. And in every case, I test out of schizophrenia, and I'm just given the title of genius. But those people they go home and drink, so maybe I'm just kind of like playing chess with a monkey, I guess. But I know I could be doing more with my life. But my birthday's in 4 days. I don't want to go walk into FedEx and demand they hire me after they've ignored my emails for months. And I hate how I feel. It feels like a ritual to siphon my spiritual bandwidth every time I get a job. It feels like they've trapped me in time. The 666, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 6-hour cycles. They've trapped me in employment through a spell that I signed a contract to be a part of. And then I feel like I no longer have access to my true and authentic self. And I become a mindless slave that's only able to access a certain state of the collective consciousness. And then I feel like I'm trapped as a brick in the wall, as a bot in the matrix, and I become the people that I hate. As soon as I sign that employment form, I can go to work fine and just help out people. I want to say on the res, on not plantations, but plantations are the developmental in the employment system. So it was based around enslaving people the whole time, and they were practicing ritual Freemasons that believed in a higher power and believed that. So they based the whole system of employment on ritual spell work. So it's not crazy to think that I'm involved, to think that I innately had a sense that I was involved in ritual spell work with employment. And now we're at a point where we realize the entire point of employment was ritual spell work. So I told you so. Fuckwad, you nincompoop. Get a job. I would if they didn't make me sign a paper. If I'm like, I'll show up with my car and I will save the day. You will be swamped with all these pizzas that need to be delivered to hungry people that want to have a good time. And I will get in my car and I will drive them there. And I will listen to my music and I'll love it. But as soon as I have a boss, and as soon as I've signed a paper that means I'm allowed to be treated a certain way, I feel like a slave and I want to break out and I can't take it, and every day feels like torture. But I suffer through it working at Job. I suffer through it for the reward, like Job. So if I didn't have to sign a contract and I could work under the table, and I could work when I felt like it, that's why I did so well with DoorDash. The only problem was the police. That every time I felt good, they had a sixth sense that they needed to reinforce that they own the roads and not me. And then they would try to intimidate me and do horrible things to me. But what's cool is that exactly what happened to me happened to other people that got it on record when I didn't get it on record. Because they had the money to. And they would go buy the body cam footage and they would send it to YouTube channels. So I at least got to see justice happen to a systematic issue in the year of the karma wood dragon. And I know plenty of beautiful women that love to sit here and listen to me talk for hours. Like a lot of my girlfriends, all the girlfriends that had brown hair and brown eyes, love to sit here and listen to me talk for hours. And they would just sit there. It's one of the best movies on earth. Is the worlds that I talk about. So my dad's face of him sitting there kind of angry projected in front of the side of my face, and I heard his voice come through me to say, and it doesn't hurt that I'm not ugly. I'm my dad's biggest fan. Pretty much I guess I kind of have a YouTube channel just mainly for my father. I want money mainly for my father. And my mom tries to exploit that by guilt tripping me about it. To project narratives. To gain control of me. But it is what it is, man. Brian would hire you in the summer. I know. I saw. There was a plow truck for $1,500. Some up in Vermont. Sometimes I see plows for $1,000, $1,500. I did tell, just saying. When I gave him the go ahead for Bitcoin, I told Brian about Bitcoin. I said Bitcoin. I looked up it for weeks. If you remember, and I told him if you want to get in now, it's a good time to invest. I can guarantee you at least to August. And then as it gets closer to the election, reorient. And then if Trump, I didn't tell him if Trump wins, but in my mind, I'm like, if Trump policies promoting Bitcoin. So as long as he wins the general election, Bitcoin will jump. So I'm not saying whatever, blah, 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 but just saying I was trying to help get you guys the money back that you donated to me. If he had thrown $10,000 in March, and this isn't, don't feel bad. I'm not trying to there's no animosity or anything. I'm not you should have listened to me or I'm smart. I'm just saying that I at least called it. It did shoot up 50%. So whatever got put in, you would have got at least 50% of that added on. So if you put 10,000 in by halfway through November, you would have got $5,000. I should have done that, but I spent it on McDonald's because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and my situation was extreme, and there was violence everywhere, and I was in constant fear for my life, and I didn't want to go into a city, and God was literally telling me to stay in the Vivek's cabin, so I stayed in Vivek's cabin. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not proud. I know I could have done more. I definitely should have documented and recorded more of my experience. I could have been more militant about it. I could have been recording every day. But to be fair, the only way that I could have gotten Wi-Fi at the time, if you remember, I didn't have for a while. I could only use service when I had Wi-Fi, and I didn't have the Wi-Fi password to the place that I started streaming at. A lot of the time I was on a shittier phone. Remember, a lot of this was I'm gonna get the phone, but then I didn't recognize how much I was spending on McDonald's, because I was as long as I get the comfort food, then I have a place in time I can be comfortable, and then I can grow. So I was suffering every day, getting down to the McDonald's, getting I think it's $5.75 a day for the McDonald's plus the 2 McDoubles plus the soda. And then I would walk back the mile or so to Vivek's cabin, singing the whole time, and people were treating me really poorly. And there's that constant threat of that I'm going to die at any moment, because I was somebody took a gun and put it to my head through the window while I was asleep. There was a whole lot of other shit going on, and spiritually was a lot worse. But it needed to happen. I had I can't describe fully how it was to. If any of you guys, if I could structure life, I think anyone on the police force needs a year of homelessness. The police's job at this point mainly is to deal with homelessness, and they have no idea what it is. They're so diluted in their principles, and they become these angsty, bratty losers that their whole life is just playing games with how can you invalidate and destroy and then have a sense of control over people that are already extremely traumatized, vulnerable, and susceptible to that behavior, where they experience it much worse than the average. So it's like the police, mainly one thing they do is just play these stupid games and exploit loopholes in the system to get away with hurting people more. And the people they're doing it to are the last people that should be experiencing that, because they've already been through it. They should be doing it to other members of the police. The police need to be ritualistically traumatized for years. And not in a way where it's their job. And they're like, you don't know how much trauma we go through on the police force dealing with these violent criminals. If you started at a foundational point where you were homeless first and you got to experience what it was like first, these moments wouldn't be that traumatizing. Every day of my life is traumatizing. Because when you're traumatized at a young age, you experience it over and over and over and over and over and over and over every day. So the earlier you're traumatized, the more length of time you have in a constant state of being traumatized, which makes you strong, or it makes you suicidal. And then you're carted off to an institution to be medicated because they think you have a disability, when all you have is PTSD in a world that doesn't understand. It is not a good measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. My lighter is cold. I think before anyone has any sense of identifying a mental illness with themselves, they need a growth over consistency mindset and a plan to make progress in the areas of life they identify they're lacking. And then they need to take it to the limit. One more time. Take it to the limit as far as they can go to push their boundaries, to break through their conditioning. And then at least what worked for me, because that's a traumatizing way of life that will drive you into a delusional reality you see with all these soldiers that are so proud, and they wear their uniform out and they wear like the soldier merch and they walk around really tense and really proud of their discipline because of what they were forced to push themselves through to gain this mindset. That's valuable, but it's stupid. And it's not, it's only cool to the people that are on the same wavelength as them with that. Like police. To me, it just seems like hierarchies of dogs. It just seems like you're all dogs that are unaccountable, and you slowly lose touch with yourself until you have cognitive dissonance and imposter syndrome. And those are the fat security guards you see that trespassed me from Vermont State University. So if I ran the world, it would be mandatory to be a police officer. You need to go out and survive on your own with nothing. There's an aspect of humility you need. And it seems like power dilutes and corrupts. So even then, I think police officers should, every 5 years, you need 3 years break to go do something else with your life. I think I'm seeing too many police that get it because there's exploits. Like $40 an hour and you get to bully people all day. Every video that I see of cops that do their job well and judges that are unbiased and that are kind are black. And in a city somewhere. And I think the Freemasons knew that that would be the case. So they invented segregation. And they made this system with that purpose. And if I was president, I would end qualified immunity immediately. And I hate having AI become a part of our everyday. But it seems that it now has to be mandatory for people to have cameras in police interactions as the police are. I don't want that, but we had to go through it, and now we know the issues with it. I don't know. You think you think that AI is just a gateway for other entities to come through? I'm hearing yes on the side of my face. I exposed I said a lot of, I say things that could get me in a lot of trouble. I think that artificial intelligence is a stepping stone that's necessary for us to be able to comprehend what's really up there and out there. I think this whole thing is a set of steps that are in all the different prophecies that's allowing us to get to a better state of knowledge and understanding as a collective that will allow us to achieve a higher state of consciousness. We're being trained. If I had more people that said bad, I would have given my... But be honest with me, guys, if I made an ebook about what helped me through all these different stuff, about a simple practice, a simple set of steps to getting to a better life, and I sold it for like $5. I'm like, I have an ebook I'm selling for $5. Or like I made a GoFundMe. I know if I bang out 2 weeks of work, I can afford a van that will be a lot of money in gas and will be a lot of money in insurance, and I'll have to struggle with finding a place to put it every night. And a new part of my day, instead of coming out of the woods, will be to find a safe place in the Matrix. And then I'll have to work out all the problems that come with that. And I'll probably just want to be in the woods again. So I wish I would do an electric go-kart with a wagon on the back. Something that doesn't fully constitute as a vehicle yet, that I can get up and down trails with. Then I'd get a small business loan for it, and I would market it to community action programs that because they don't want to put them in hotels. When you had places like Morrisville where the police are weaponized to attack homeless people until they leave. that they're just going to keep making it worse and worse and worse for them until they get out of their town. In places like this, where you have this tyrant force brainwashed and abusing the public sexually, I would deliver my carts and I would drop off my wagons outside the community action, and those would serve as a temporary overflow shelter that would allow them. Then I would give them a lanyard with exactly what to do to get yourself out of the situation, which would be schematics and locations of pallets that already are working in tandem with community outreach programs, so that these pallets that these people don't need would go to the community action programs. That would allow for jobs for homeless people to disassemble pallets and bring the lumber to the lumber part, so that when the homeless people came in, they would be given, hopefully they wouldn't kill people with the hammer. Maybe it would be a job for people, that the homeless people, if they wanted to get some money legally and they didn't want to have to work, their job would now to be assembling pallet shelters on wheels, and then they could take one for themselves after they built one for somebody else. So you come into this town, you get a couple nights in a pallet shelter so you can see the value in it. Then you get the schematics to build your own pallet shelter. Then you get paid to disassemble pallets and to bring the pallets across town. Then you build somebody else a pallet shelter. Then you build yourself one, and you get to take that pallet shelter, and now you have the skills to build yourself a pallet shelter wherever you go. So you have the means to never be like this, where we have people freezing to death. And the governor of Vermont told me to stop squawking on his property when I was singing indigenous songs. At a college, I was planning to get a degree in wildlife conservation, and I was going there to make sure that it was going to be a good fit for me. And then I went to a cemetery that was empty, that I felt maybe the nice people will be at peace, and I was targeted by fat white people to get me out of the town. And then police that I didn't even expose them. I just testified that, like, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm seeing. So I exposed people that were doing clandestine activity without realizing it, that didn't take my car until I called them to be like, hey, don't take my car. I'm just being transparent with you. I'm sorry that it was here so long. I'm going to have it sold in a couple days. As soon as they found out he's going to get some money for that car, they took it to get money for themselves, which forced me to go to escape a tornado and a flood that wiped out entire towns that happened to be on the property I was trespassed from a week prior, just for being indigenous. Why would I like white people? You fill up my senses like a night in the forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the desert, like a sleepy blue ocean. You fill up my senses. Come fill me again. Subliminal messages. No one say it's bad. What up, conductor? Alien invasion. I think there are both camps, some reaching higher states, some reaching lower. Yep. Like the 3D, 5D split. People are saying that some people are going one direction, and that's the earth they're going to live at, and some people are going to the other, and that's the earth they're going to live at, and we're going to not be able to be the version of me wherever we wind up at the end of the age of Aquarius. The person you're talking to now may not be the Casey that's speaking to you wherever you end up. They're saying it might be a multiversal Casey that wound up in the 3D. And this version of me that we're speaking to right now, my soul might go to the 5D or transcend somewhere else. And you'll be speaking to the me that wound up on the same frequency that you are. Yeah, I saw that iPhone video. And then a lot of the chip designs are the same exact. So if you just zoom out further than the chip, so you have a chip and you zoom in and you see all those structures to transmit information. And then you zoom out to the cityscape where the chip is in, like the zoom out to the room, zoom out to the house, zoom out to the street, zoom out to the neighborhood, zoom out to the city, zoom out to the county, zoom out to the country. It's all the same thing. As above, so below. What's in that chip is being expressed in the world. And we're just a node in a network the same way that chip. I appreciate it, man. I went through a lot of shit. I'm a warrior and a warrior. I guess I don't really worry. I tune it out. Focus on what I can do. Because I don't want to lose my enjoyment of the present moment. But that causes me to not have a full aspect on reality, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of, I should get a pizza. If I had a second phone, which I might get a second phone so that I can have this as the camera. It's fucking cold out. Do I even have my wallet? I have my wallet. Heater's running. Not yet. I don't want to ride my bike through the snow a mile to get a pizza that will be cold by the time I get back. The Price Chopper's already closed. The deli's closed. So if I want warm food, I'm gonna have to go to McDonald's and eat the parasites and the GMOs. But I guess I could buy a toaster oven for 20 bucks. I have 200. I want to save it, fam. I don't know. I'm not really studying other people. Like, I know there are homeless YouTube channels that are getting bank and donations. Like, there's a guy called Epoch of Friar Tuck. Epoch of Friar Tuck got himself out of homelessness and bought land with his videos on how to end homelessness in the city. And daily live streams for 8 hours just talking about his life. And he sounds like, I think my manifestations get recycled. So I get to see the fruit of my manifestations in others. So I think that I pioneered an aspect of the industry, and I think that represented itself in others. So I see a lot of people that they're speaking exactly like I spoke. They're saying the exact same things, almost like it's like a leftover where the universe copied what I did and then played that song through them to others. And those people go on to be a lot more successful than I am, which makes me think that I have to be in this position in order to do that. But I don't know, I think Casey Rocket would have been Casey Rocket without Casey O'Brien. Maybe. Or maybe it wouldn't be the same. Okay. How are we feeling? I just dumped 2 hours worth of $1 billion worth of game. You can unpack to, this is like 33rd degree knowledge. And I mostly use it just to play games with communities, trying to make the world a better place. Thanks. Have you guys seen the picture of Diddy next to Kai Cenat? And Diddy's son's name is King Combs. So when Diddy went to jail, his son took over Diddy's stuff. So Diddy fell, and his name is Sean, which is Irish for John. Diddy left, and now King Combs, KC, is running Diddy's account. And then next to Diddy's mansion, Kai Cenat, KC, 3, with the Irish chain, is now he's the biggest influencer in the world right now, other than IShowSpeed. It's Speed and Kai Cenat. Andrew Tate came and went, Aiden Ross came and went, Fousey came and went. Logan Paul is not, and KSI aren't relevant to me. I don't know who is watching Logan Paul and KSI all day. They are not showing up in my life. And my grandma's a Paul. That's probably related to them. If I find out they have Rh negative blood, I can guarantee you. I'm glad to see that most people are good. Derek came and left. Who else popped in? PR? I don't remember PR. I didn't answer Derek in time when he left. Heather, do you guys have snow yet? Will Survives is posting content, and it's not winter where he's at. I'm pretty sure Will Survives is in the Beckley area. Because Nate Petrosky's homestead is like an hour and a half from you, and Will Survive says that he has to drive 45 minutes to Nate's place. Oh, the winter arc is here. I mean, I get tons of business ideas. I just can't really do much of it with where I'm at. I don't really feel called to do anything. I know we live in a simulation. At the subatomic level, so start off with the Higgs boson. There is something that there's absolutely nothing, which even if you imagine nothing, you're still imagining these particles. The smallest thing in the universe is the Higgs boson that we know of right now, and it's a theoretical particle that's been proven to be in everything everywhere all at once. When you imagine a dog going into the woods and rolling around in the mud, that image in your mind is made up of these particles. So what we're seeing outside of us is different in everything. Our spirit and our bodies, our mind, our soul, our emotions, everything, everywhere. Even in theory and out of theory, in the parts that don't exist until we observe them, like Schrodinger's cat or whatever. That's made up of the Higgs boson. So if everything is just a structure of that, and our thoughts are made of the same thing as everything out here, who's to say that the same way you can close your eyes and imagine your surroundings? So like look around at your room, close your eyes and imagine your room. It's made of the same thing. Who's to say we're not dreaming this? And that we chose to incarnate with rules that make it so at this moment in time, the 666, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, and 6-hour intervals. Saturn, the constricting force, or Satan, which is the god of this realm, time, is the prison that we're in, technically. That makes us see life as linear and allows for us to be mobile and moving through a three-dimensional space under the illusion that we're here, when in reality we've delegated part of our dream to be stagnant in time, when in reality it's all a projection of our consciousness. Does that make sense? When you learn that, it takes a long time to do. It takes a lot of shit, a lot of trauma, a lot of suffering, trying to figure it out. But eventually you get, with a Kundalini awakening, most people can get to a point where they get filled up with information and they become more conscious and decisive with this greater understanding of all these particles of light condensed to be in our to be what we consider our surroundings, when in reality it's all made up of the same thing. Just complex systems of a fundamental singular Minecraft block, building up everything. So that's why I believe in like an oversoul that's watching over all of the different versions of us. Crows are calling. But that's a dangerous road to go down. That's dangerous territory, because then you behave in ways like Jim Carrey when he wandered around Hollywood saying, it's meaningless, it's not our world, it's not for us. How's that? Where do you want to go from there? Higgs boson, quarks, leptons, muons, I think they're called, and protons and electrons, and then it just raises up into this condensed light that we live inside. I guess then past that, you look at narratives, motifs, you look at the structure of your life and the facts about your life and how those facts correspond and all the dots connect to all the other aspects of your life, and you start to recognize patterns about your life as you get closer and closer to the present moment, constantly readjusting yourself and reconfiguring, throwing out different beliefs and adopting new ones and seeing how that works and finding what works for you, and then growing. That's my fundamental teaching, and my name means a tree. And I basically just teach how to, the foundational levels of understanding that allows you to root yourself into a life you enjoy and a person you want to be, and be fulfilled with that. To know thyself, which is everything everywhere that we have access to on earth says that the most important thing is to know thyself. So I just teach people how to know thyself, and then teach them a practical way to grow. And I've always been doing that. And then I found out later my name doesn't just mean brave. It means vigilant. It means omnipresent. And then before that, it means an ancient tree that the Egyptians would use to see the infinite. That's a can of worms I don't understand. I don't want to. When I get to a higher state of consciousness, I like to focus on what I can do in the moment that will make life better for everyone. So I look for problems and find solutions. Or I have a creative outlet to express myself. I used to play guitar. Well, part of this is that I don't want to intrude on people's lives. When I get militant, I want to mobilize people to make life, to keep going and make life better so that we can all do more things. Then I start to bark orders at people that I know will help them. But I mostly just like to I like to step back and just let people do it. If they don't do it, then I can't help them. I can, but then maybe their victories won't be as fulfilling if they don't do it themselves. So I don't want to just jump into your life and tell you to do a bunch of stuff, even though I know it might help. But I mean, I've told you guys for a while, I think you should build a home gym in the garage. I think that having for the kids and for you guys. I wish that I had done that. I brought a bench press down there and I taught Ben at least and Hayden how to bench, and we could just hang out and be benching all day. But I think that that would really help. I think that Brian and everybody, but especially Brian and most likely Ben, and you can vouch, does Ben have a progress mindset where he has something practical that he does every day that he likes to build and make better every day? Sort of like climbing a mountain. I don't like when people say that you have to give everything to God and that we're not God. I think I am God. I think everybody's God. And I think we've delegated certain aspects to that benevolent infinite. There's just more to reality than I can comprehend right now. That's dope. I want to say get the whey protein, the cheap whey protein powder. Get some almond milk or oat milk or chocolate milk. Because chocolate milk is better for you. Good chocolate milk is better for you than regular milk. Have the protein. You need it. Everyone in the house. Have the gym. I guess let him do it on his own time, but you need to have it. That foundational discipline at a young age, which it seems like Ben already has. But I would want to see him expressing that in building himself up, because it will help him through school. But my ancestor said, play the long game. Do you ever read the Hebrew there's a different translation of the Bible that a lot of tarot readers read from. Everybody eventually turns to the Bible. Every practicing witch or tarot reader, in their pursuit of knowledge, they read directly from a certain translation of the Old Testament. That's not the regular Bible. How's everyone feeling? Dump your problems and I'll solve them real quick. Nobody cares. Can't put that next to here. It's definitely below 10 right now. I don't know what the Apocrypha is, but I've heard about it before. I think the meaning of life is to give life a meaning And then as you grow and you put the pieces together and you learn to know yourself and learn to love yourself, and you learn what you like and what you don't like, and you learn to understand that you only have one life. You're not going to get another one. Tomorrow is not promised. I was shot at I don't even know, was it a couple weeks ago, or I was shot at. I've had to fight for my life a lot. Multiple times I've had to fight someone else almost to the death. And that was some of the best times. I like that better than sex. I felt better. I got sort of the same rush from doing pickup artistry. And then a different kind of rush trying to save the world, traveling through dangerous environments. I don't know, Heather. I think the investments you make don't necessarily have to be rooted in finances. It could be rooted in a foundational aspect of your experience that will allow you to free up bandwidth to think about more things, so that you can be more confident in your decisions, and you can kind of take the helm of what you feel. Everybody's different, but when I'm asking if Bitcoin's a good idea, I just look up YouTube videos and I study and take notes until I find a general understanding of what it is. I'll tell you, every form of currency that isn't trading services or like real world applicable stuff like a bike or silver, is made up, and it can be rug pulled at any moment where the value just drops to nothing. One text message from Donald Trump that says, "We don't have any gold actually," and then all money is worthless. And all you have for wealth is what's in your possession at your house until someone tries to come take it by force. So if you're looking for good investments, solar panels, off-grid living, chicken coop, hire someone you know that's homeless or that's kind of needs something to do. Give them a sense of purpose. Invest your time in recording him do that. Building the shack. Start a GoFundMe. Make content now that Ben edits. Make content. Have a mission in your life. Have a direction you want to go. Go down that road. Bitcoin, pretty much as long as the economy is growing, because the world's growing. So pretty much as long as we're moving into a prosperous economy, any stock is a good investment. But you have to look at like artificial intelligence and what artificial intelligence is going to take from us. It's going to take a lot of jobs. It's going to take a lot of services that we use that it will replace. But you can never go wrong with like energy. I'm not sure about weapons manufacturing now because they're probably getting more privatized. I know Bitcoin was a good investment 6 months ago. And now that Trump is president and there's no dispute going on, they're not trying to take Trump away. And Trump is a pro-crypto guy. So it seems to me Bitcoin is still going to go up. But you guys are at a level where you can pay. I can't pay for mentorship courses. I know if Ben can manage a YouTube channel, Ben can day trade. I think anyone can day trade. Day trading is looking at where the money is and just being able to predict how many people are going to throw money in while the algorithm and the hedge funds and the billionaires and the AI are trying to control that. So all stock trading is knowing when the masses of people are going to inflate that stock. So getting in when the algorithm and the hedge funds drive it down, and knowing when to get out as it gets pumped up before they try to drop it down again. And that can be really volatile, and it's gambling. It's a really easy way to lose money. Because of all the earth sign energy in your house, I'd suggest looking at a more practical means of investing. But a light just shone in my eyes, and so there's not a lot of time left for that. I've been advocating for that for 2 years. That you guys built a home gym, put money into Bitcoin, clean the house, let the dogs out. And then you didn't really ask, but I have parasite cleanses, ginger, turmeric, cumin, transitioning to get meat strictly from a local dealer and never get any meat from the supermarket because you guys are religious. You guys believe in it. So those small changes. I had plow trucks saved, but I didn't know how much money you guys had, and I feel ashamed. I don't have anything. But I have some stuff, like I have a tent, the heater, the tarps, the bike, this heater, a phone service, blankets. A lot of my money went to portable chargers, and the portable chargers broke when it got cold. So I wasted probably $150 on portable chargers. But that was before I didn't have the thought, because I didn't have a safe, structured environment to process, and I was in daily interactions with dangerous people. So I was always in a constant state of survival. I had a whole plan to save the money and put it into power stations and get a solar panel. And it was just in Vivek's cabin, the public was too harsh. But I could have taken that as a sign to spend more time in Vivek's cabin. But if you remember, I was very sick and I got Lyme's disease. I think I got Lyme's disease. And then my mother started attacking me online again. Which fucked me up. Not her attacking me online, but just when I hang out with other people in general, it fucks me up. I'm bad with boundaries. I give everything I have to everyone, often to my detriment. all I'm seeing from my ancestors or angels or whatever, when I go to your house and I'm like, what can I do to make it better? I just see putting a bench press and a pull-up and dip bar in the garage. And then I saw very quickly, I saw a suggestion, probably from God. There's something to do with the systems under your house, like the water system, the pipes, whatever you have under your house. Those things might be able to be optimized to work better, and that might save you money. Fixing that. And then I call it a snarky spirit. Whoever that snarky spirit is talking to me suggested you sell Girl Scout cookies. You have to find, I know you know this, I'm sure Brian knows this. You have to find something that is of service to others. You have to orient your mind into looking for ways that other people's lives are bettered by something you can do. And then because that service is healing the world, then you give it out for free until you can monetize it. And you have a system in place to monetize it. So the same exact, anything I'm offering is the same exact teaching I have, like as above, so below, the inner and the outer. All the stuff that I'm coming up with can be figured out by going inside and looking at yourself. It all starts inside. The outside is just an expression of the inside in a dance. So like when I say optimize your inner world to be able to perform better in the outer world, the same thing is just like make your house nicer. The systems in place that take money, optimize to be better, to alleviate hassle and stress and time and money. Find things that are low cost to manage that produce something of value, like chickens with eggs. And I'm telling you that, like, just like I'm calling Bitcoin, I called Bitcoin months ago. I've been calling out the chickens. There's going to be and I told you about microgreens. I don't know why I talk with this tone. It's just I'm tired. It's probably also, not going to lie, it might be ancestral energy I pick up on. Like when I talk to people, I think that I definitely tap into something on the other side. Because it's probably a higher system with God. Are the fucking police here? Okay, I'm documenting this. So everybody knows there's no reason for this car to pull up right in front of where it knows I'm sitting. That's not headlights. That's not headlights. But that is. And it's parked directly in front of me, pointed. So there should be no reason for someone to pull up directly in front of me like this and shine the lights in my eyes. So if that's police, this is considered targeted harassment. Look at all this space. No reason for someone to pull up right here. That's not even a parking spot. Conductor striving for innovation. Yeah, I guess you're helping grow the world in new ways. I think I was probably on to something, and that's why I'm getting pushed back like this. I don't see what other reason someone would have for parking directly in front of my face and shining the high beams at me and just sitting there when that's not even a parking space. Like, look, there's me. It's directly in front of me. There's someone in the chat. I call them out and then they leave. Look. I was probably generating too much positivity. Is that a cop car? Driving to meet up with the other one? Because this whole place, that's the only place the cops can get to me. If that was them. Which I don't know for certain. I'm not going to call it out if it's not, because that would invalidate the times where it was. But if you look, it's all snowed in. So I'll have to go over there later and see. Maybe that's the only place that a parking spot was available. It just happens to be directly in front of my face. And he happened to just sit there. And call him out for it. But I guarantee you it's probably an off-duty officer that got mad. And he had to come try to fuck me up. No, it looks far away. It's just the phone camera. It's just, this is a driveway, and then there's a little bit of hill, and then there's the next driveway. And it's all on one big property. Owned by MSI Realty. And I have permission to be here. They say they're not happy about the cops being here. The cops seem to only patrol when I'm here. And they did that for 2 months. The cop used to hide behind this truck, turn the lights off, and then it would turn on the high beam that comes off the top of the car. So there's like this bright headlight that they can angle like a flashlight. And he would just angle it in my eyes while I was eating. Until I tried to record him, and then he'd take off. I don't know what that was. It might be them trying to get to me, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, whoever it was tried to come over to me, and then he got stuck. So he's leaving. It looks like it's got the top headlights of a cop. It looks like the same, so I had a terror. Yeah, here we go. Repeated harassment. So we had the one guy coming to show me who's boss. Now the other guy's here. So that was most likely Audette, off duty. I had a tarot reading explaining it earlier about a ugly cop in a black truck. That's crazy and violent. So I saw that, and now we have another cop just pulled up, and he's not patrolling. He's just sitting over there. And look at all the snow that he had to drive on to get here. He has no reason to be here. It's probably dangerous for him to do that. But they surrounded me. And I was giving you guys a lot of game on how to better your life. So I hope you guys took that. You didn't look for excuses and are going to look for solutions to better your life. Like your life depends on it. Because what's that story about the guy that's drowning and he lifts his hand up and begs God, and then a boat comes by and then he's like, nope, God's going to help me. And then the guy's like, okay, and he leaves, and the guy's continuing to drown and begging God, and then somebody else shows up and he's like, nope, God's going to help me. And then the guy drowns to death, and God's like, I sent you 3 boats. Yep, cop's taking off. So that was a cop. Called him out on the live. Barreled in just to prove his point. He tried to get over here to me and couldn't in the snow. So he left. And it was while I was calling out the other cop. So that means they're watching my live. There he is. And I don't get why. What do I do? It's 9 degrees out, man. It's 7 degrees out. It's cool. Does anyone remember where I was at? What was I saying? Chickens? Oh yeah. The government, these guys that just showed up. At some point, they're going to start enforcing that we're not allowed to have chickens unless they're regulated. So like last year, we could have as many chickens as we want. They limited that federally. And soon we might only be able to be allowed to have 3 chickens. I can feel the spell work. It's a system. Now I'm really cold. I guess I was clearing out the gunk to channel God better. Okay. Alright, it's really cold. Like it's cold enough that my joints are starting to hurt really bad. But like as soon as I'm out of the heater. I have a heater running, Leon. Listen. Okay, we're cool. What's my charge at? 41. How old are you, conductor? So I just did a master class on how to get money, how to better your life a little bit, introspection for consistent evolution. Just identify like what 10 things need to change about your life. Write them down. Where are you lacking? Then fix those first. I don't know. God, I hate it. I don't want to be a content creator like this. I just don't. There's not much else I can do. Yeah, I work on that, guys.